Art Mercado to lead us in the pledge.
Hand over heart. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who am I?
Linda, roll call.
Okay, Councilmember Andrusik.
Here?
Councilmember King.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Mercado.
Here.
And Mayor Sierra.
Here. Thank you very much. Do we have any reordering of the agenda tonight?
Not tonight.
Okay. Public comments. I don't have any speaker slips up here. Is there anybody who wants to give us their 3 minutes worth of whatever they're thinking right now? Compliments, complaints, suggestions? Nothing. Okay. Closing public comments. Moving on. Short meeting tonight to the consent calendar. We have the minutes of January 9th, 2020, regular city council meeting. List of claims to be approved and ratified for payment to date for fiscal year 2019-20. The financial report for the second quarter ending December 31st, 2019. Monthly treasurer's report, December 31st, 2019. Number 5 is the acceptance of bid and award of construction contract for the Avenue of Flags Median 2 Improvements Project. Approval of intra-basin administrative agreement for implementation of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, or SGMA, in the Santa Ynez River Valley Groundwater Basin with the Santa Ynez River Water Conservation District. Number 7 is resolution number 20-03, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, authorizing the placement of a lien on particular property located in the City of Buellton for unpaid enforcement charges to abate a public nuisance. And item number 8 is the ratification of agreement responsive to City Council direction from closed session items of meeting on January 9th, 2020.
Madam Mayor, I move for approval of items 1 through 8.
I'll second.
Okay, Linda?
Okay, Councilmember.
Wait, time out. I'd like to pull 5 off of there.
5?
Yeah.
Okay. So
And you can approve the rest of them.
1 through 4.
1 through
6
4
through
and
4 and
6
6
through
through 8,
8.
correct.
Okay. Linda?
Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Mercado.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Thank you. Councilmember King?
Yes, ma'am. I started looking at this again, and when I got down to when I got into the pictures of this, and I started looking at it, I know we've had some conversations about this before, but I'm thinking that okay, I'm at it. It starts on page 50. So I started looking at this again, and I'm thinking that we're really spending an exorbitant amount of money on these areas where we're going to have trees and shrubbery and sidewalk and all that. And I think that if we took another look at this, 1, we could get some more parking spaces in here, and 2, the cost of this to the taxpayers of this town would go down substantially. We're talking about almost $2 million for a parking lot. So if we want to maybe take a look at this again, agendize this, take another look at it, or if any thoughts that you guys have, because, you know, after I did start going through this, we are putting a lot of money in irrigation and drainage and all these flower beds and tree areas, and I'm just thinking, man, that's a lot of money for a parking lot. And I will reiterate, we're taking up a lot of space by putting that in there. Now, my thought would be that sidewalk that goes right down the middle, if you want to put some trees in here, go and put some trees in here, but you could maybe pull out all of those other flower beds.
Okay.
Just my thought.
Okay. I would like to respond to that. First of all, we are pulling out an incredible amount of lawn in order to put that parking lot in. So I think the cost savings actually is going to be greater than watering all that lawn. I think because it's such a large median, that unless we have the ground cover going around it and trees in it, that it's just asphalt and concrete, and it's going to look absolutely horrible. And since this is the first Avenue of Flags project, I want this one to look really nice. The city has budgeted for this, and this is going to be one of the showpieces of the city. We also have open streets on October 4th. This is planned to be completed the middle of September. So dragging our feet could cause more delays. I just think we've posted this twice for bid, and the first ranking bid was under what was proposed as the bid. The max amount of bid, this came under that. So I am comfortable moving forward with median 2 construction. Gentlemen, anything?
I kind of agree with Holly on this one. I think, you know, we're finally getting some action on Avenue of the Flags, and it's going to be multi-use, not only as parking, but as farmers market, car shows. Thinking making it as pretty as we can with the least amount of cost. I think it just be in the city's best interest. I think we should go forward.
A comment perhaps, and I was looking at the idea of phasing. I just don't know if there's a spot to phase this in the event I hate to commit that we're going to do all of that. It may not be accepted for that kind of money. People are pretty sensitive to those kind of dollars going out. So I think perhaps we could establish a stopgap area. You know, just start. We went on with the design because we felt we had already committed to getting a design. And I hate to say, well, we're just going to do this, period. Damn the torpedoes. And I think I'd like to have some stopgap without any penalty. Perhaps not have penalty. I'm sure the contract usually has penalties. If you don't pay up, you're going to pay. You're going to pay anyway if you don't follow through. So Greg may have an idea about having. If we came up with a substantial reason, say it isn't working out, Caltrans, Caltrans has kind of come into town and done some numbers on Street 246, and I think I don't think if we knew how much we haven't even. There's been a lot of money spent on that, and I don't find any happy campers with it. And I think the fire trucks are having a little difficulty meandering through the myriad of curbing. So, and I haven't had conversation with them. I can imagine I see they're here tonight. I thought maybe they might have an opinion about it. But
Rose, how long have we been working on the design for median 2?
Probably for a little over a year from concept through the end of design.
Okay.
So at this point, if council decides not to award the bid, the direction, if you're changing, even phasing, we would have to reject the bids and then phase
all
the
over
project
again.
and rebid the project.
Yeah. And we did agree to go out to bid for it with the last,
Yes,
we completed
council,
this.
council approved the design and to go out to bid in December of 2019.
I think we had already decided to get it done, and it's already gone through wherever steps we've had to take, and everybody's had an opinion on it the whole time, many times, and I think it's time to hit the road with it and get it done. That's going to be the way it is. The next one we can
Takes a while to get
showcase
anything
it.
done.
It'll get done. I mean, it'll get done by, theoretically, it'll be done by October, and if that's what we plan. If we start stalling it again, it'll be stalled for another 6 months or more with the change of plans and change of bids and all that. And I think we've been far enough to get where we're at with it.
Is that a motion?
No, I'll do it myself. I'm going to go ahead and concede and vote that or move that we approve item 5 on the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Thank you. Linda?
Okay, Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Mercado.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Thank you very much. Moving on to presentations. Do we have any presentations tonight? Public hearings. Before we get going. Agenda item number 9, ordinance number 20-01, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, readopting Chapter 8.12 of the Buellton Municipal Code pertaining to the 2019 California Fire Code as adopted and amended by the County of Santa Barbara. This is a public hearing, second reading. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. As the council will recall from our last meeting in early January, this is a readoption of the fire code by reference. The California Fire Code was updated for 2019. The County of Santa Barbara has reviewed that updated California Fire Code version, made their changes to it, which is a typical process that happens every time a new fire code is adopted. The County of Santa Barbara has subsequently adopted their version of the California Fire Code, and now as the city and as a member of the Consolidated Fire Protection District, we're in need of adopting a fire code as well. In the past, the City of Buellton has simply adopted the county's version of the fire code. At this time, staff is not recommending any further changes to it. We did discuss at the last meeting that this is a little different process than we're normally used to seeing in terms of our public hearing and noticing. The first reading took place at the meeting in January. There was no notice sent out prior to that meeting. Instead, state law mandates that when you adopt a code by reference, you hold 2 rounds of noticing in the newspaper in successive weeks before the second reading, and hold the public hearing at the second reading. So that's where we're at this evening. This is the public hearing. Notice has been given as required by law, and staff would recommend that the City Council go ahead and adopt the county's version of the fire code by reference. We have members of the fire department here this evening to answer any questions the City Council may have. And with that, I'll conclude my report.
Thank you very much. First of all, any questions from council? None. Okay. I'm going to open it up to the public. If anybody, I don't have any speaker slips, but if anybody wants to speak on ordinance 20-01, now's your opportunity. No? Closing it to the public, bringing it back to council for discussion and action.
Move we approve ordinance number 20-01.
Second.
Alrighty. This is a first reading? Second reading, okay, good. Alrighty. Just by motion, since
No,
there's
you
no
don't.
finances?
Yeah, ordinance needs.
Ordinance
Roll call.
will be roll
Okay,
call.
got it. Thank you.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Mercado.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye, thank you very much. Thank you for coming, gentlemen, appreciate it. Agenda
Stay
item,
for the show.
you're welcome to stay.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
If you guys are on overtime, you can stay.
Okay, agenda item 10, ordinance 20-02, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, prohibiting the offer or operation of shared-use electric scooters within the city limits. This is an introduction and first reading.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. As the mayor noted, this is the first reading, an introduction of an ordinance to prohibit the operation of shared-use electric scooters within the city. As the council will recall, a little over a year ago, the City Council adopted a moratorium on shared-use electric scooters within the city. The typical ones we see here in California are Bird and Lime are the brands. A number of cities have had quite a bit of problems with them in that the operators will essentially drive through town and just drop these things at random corners for people to pick up and use as they will, and then when they're done using them, they leave them wherever they happen to be.
At other random corners.
Excuse me?
At other random
At
corners.
other random points. at which point either another user will come in and charge it, or the operator will come in and pick them up for charging. The problem with this is obviously you've got these things left all over the place. They tend to be blocking, obstructing sidewalks, left on private property, dumped someplace they shouldn't be dumped. The council's moratorium on this expired in January, and essentially given the experience that the city has seen under the moratorium, as well as looking at how other cities have resolved this issue over the past, the ordinance before you this evening essentially continues the moratorium on a permanent basis. It only applies to shared use electric scooters, so if someone were to go and buy their own, it wouldn't preclude them from operating it within the city. Also, should an operator desire to come to the city, they would be more than welcome to come in and make a proposal to the city council, and the city council could then consider amending the ordinance in such a way that would allow that operation, if the council deemed it appropriate, under whatever standards or regulations the council felt was appropriate at the time. So this is simply to prevent someone from coming and starting up a business in advance before they come and talk to the city. I'll be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you. Questions?
I would just ask Greg, if you've had this in any of your other cities, how are they handling this? They're probably the smallest group of body you represent.
We have 2 other cities with which I work that have banned them, and they banned them because they were coming up in adjoining cities, and it was beginning to create problems. They were seeing the problems next door, and so they put bans like this in. Everybody's done the same thing we've done here. You define scooters to be ones operated by the business entities. Nobody's out to get a kid who's happens to have a gas or electric powered scooter. But the potential for harm, again, as Councilman Sanchez said, when somebody takes it from one corner and leaves it at another, and then it drops, and now you have people having a tough time traveling the sidewalk, that creates problems. And something we don't want. It's too hard to guess what regulations to put in place. You'd have to take regulations from a city like Los Angeles or Santa Monica and hope that they'd work for Buellton. So what the city manager did, and he and I talked about it, was, as he told you, let's go ahead and put the prohibition in, and then if, given some of the tourist travel that we have here, if one of these entities wants to come in, well, they don't come in with a blank slate. They come in with a prohibition, and they have to sit down first with him and then with you and talk about how exactly they'd operate. I think it's the best way to go, and it is what our more residential cities are doing these days.
Thank you. I think that's informative.
Yes. Any other questions? Then I open it up to the public. Again, no speaker slips, but if anybody wants to talk about electric scooters for public use, okay. Closing it to the public, bringing it back to council.
Move to approve.
Okay.
Ordinance
Second.
2002.
Alrighty. Linda?
Okay, Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Mercado.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Gosh, I think we're all 5 for 5 tonight. Wonderful. Agenda item, I know.
Not gonna make it.
Agenda item number 11, resolution number 20-01. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, adopting the Measure A 5-year local program of projects for fiscal years 2021 and through 24-25. Ms. Hess.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of City Council. So this is our annual rolling 5-year program of projects to show the city's intended expenditures for the Measure A countywide sales tax. The city uses its allocation towards its share of transit programs, such as our subsidy for Dial-A-Ride, San Ynez Valley Transit, Wine Country Express, and Breeze 200. In addition to that, we also have annual allocations that are made towards our San Ynez River Trail project. We have that $10,000 that we add to our savings pot for that project. And we also have allocations for various concrete repairs for pedestrian safety throughout town when we do our maintenance projects. The balance is allocated towards the city's annual road maintenance projects. Over the next 5 years, the anticipated revenue for the city is approximately $1,898,815. One thing confirmed is for 2021, our expected revenue to receive is $383,552. So with that, we've provided the Exhibit A, which is our Measure A local program of projects, which we are to submit to SBCAG. And those are due by the end of February to them. And if you have any questions, I'm available to answer.
All righty. Any questions for Rose? No questions? Open it up to the public? Bringing it back from the public? Gentlemen, discussion, action?
I'll make a motion to accept resolution number 20-01 as stated.
Second.
All righty. Linda?
Okay, Vice Mayor Mercado.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Thank you. Linda?
Yeah.
Could you help Vice Mayor with
Sure.
his computer while we go through the council member comments / items? Still. Any comments, items?
I attended the Arts and Culture meeting, and short of Kyle, and we had a pretty productive meeting. And,
Now, when was that?
that was the 4th, I believe, and our next meeting is going to be on March 3rd on voting day.
Okay.
And, so we decided that we were going to vote absentee and keep our meeting going on Tuesday. So,
And is Kyle back? Will he be at the meeting?
Yes. Can't guarantee he'll be at the meeting, he is back.
He is back. Good.
thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any comments or items from you, Councilman Andrusik?
I think are we talking about the list of things that,
Comments, items, I would imagine
Council
photographs.
comments. No.
no, not the ones that we were talking about?
Any
right
meetings
now,
you've been to?
that would like, got a question?
Oh, Ed, you're gonna ask Shelby if he can come up and just speak for a second
That's right.
on your council comments.
Madam Mayor, Shelby would like to come up.
Only for you, Councilmember Andrusik, would I do this.
It'll be done before
Only for
6:30.
you.
Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Mayor Sierra. I had thought, Danielle and I thought that Visit SYB was on the calendar tonight to accept our third quarter report. That's why we're here. So it turns out it's not on there. But we would be happy to come back, but we would also be more happy to actually present our year-end report that will come out in April. That would not be on the consent agenda. And so if it's okay with you, if you just accept the third quarter report, if that's all right, then we'll come and do a whole slideshow and everything like I tried to do last year for our full year.
Madam Mayor, and I apologize for that. That was an issue that we had discussed would come on this, agenda. As you can see, there are quite a few, and obviously it was an oversight and it's not there. If the council decides to go that way, I would be happy to take their report and I'll place it on the consent calendar for this second meeting or the next meeting, pardon me,
Is
second
that-
in February.
That's how you'd like to handle this item that you brought up, Councilman
And then
Andrusik?
we'll have them
dreaming of
back
that
for a business item.
I'd like
for
to thank Mr. Andrusik for taking care of business.
That works fine.
My psychic.
Terrific.
That's
Thank you
fine.
very much.
Thank you very much. We'll
City
see you
Council.
with
Thank you.
the after April then.
Awesome, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Well played, Shelby.
Thank you.
Councilmember King, any comments or items from you?
I
Vice Mayor?
have one, the 20th of January, the Chamber had their meeting and they're getting ready for some numerous shows that Kathy was going to. One very important one was the LA Travel and Adventure Show, which is the 14th through the 16th. And it's huge, but last year, just the number of people that they got inquiries from that part of the thing. One of them was, we've always talked about why Chicago has been the big hitter. They're actually going to have a group from Chicago who does their chamber type work,
thought you were
and they were
gonna
coming out.
I thought you were
So
going to say
it's-
Buellton was beating Chicago now.
Well, 806 hits every month, if not more. 1,000, 1,200. Chicago, the Windy City loves us, so that's good.
Wonderful.
As far
Thank you.
west as you can get from Chicago.
Thank you. I had just a couple comments. First of all, we have a ribbon cutting at noon on the 25th. That's on Tuesday at Sycamore and 246. Our ribbon cutting for the Safe Route to School, we're going to have long arm lights that come out over the street and flash, so hopefully cars will actually see those lights flashing before they hit people trying to cross the street. That's on the 25th at noon. On the 26th, we have the State of the City breakfast at the Marriott. And the other comment is that we're going to miss Laura Kapp, who passed away in the Valley. She was
Cancer.
she was very active in the Valley, not just in Solvang, but promoted Buellton as well, and really nice lady. I would like to bring an item back to council. I will. I had a meeting with Joan Hartman yesterday, who was under the understanding she turned in a Safe Route to School, a pre-application for $113,000 to spend on Valley schools, training children how to ride bicycles, and they would be bringing bikes to the schools. It's like a 2-year program, and she thought that Buellton and Solvang were going to not apply for any grants at all, and that we were going to throw our support behind the county's grant application. The county did not contact either city, so Solvang turned in an application to put sidewalks around the school, and Buellton, we have 2 of them. One is an $89,000 grant application for a study how to get kids safely from the new townhomes in McMurray. With our City in the School program, Rose went and had every child show where they lived and how they got to school, and there's quite a contingency now from the other side. So we were going to do that, and then the number one was another $30,000 for Safe Route to School studies. The county or Supervisor Hartman would like us to either cut down on our application amounts or to withdraw them and throw support behind the bicycle training. And I would like that brought back for discussion if I could.
Agree.
Okay.
Is timing an issue? I mean,
The final application has to be in the middle of March. So
Okay. We have
if we
time.
discuss it, then we can figure out, we were talking about maybe withdrawing our second application, continuing with the $30,000 first application, and Solvang was talking about cutting their $119,000 grant application in half and using general funds for the other half for the sidewalks. It's something that needs to be discussed. So I'm hoping that we can,
I'll work with the city engineer, and if there's any way at all possible, we will get it before you on the 27th.
thank you very much. Appreciate it. Councilmember
And did you
King?
mention the mixer on the 19th?
I did not.
Okay. Chamber mixer on the 19th, 5 o'clock at Figueroa Brewing. And that is open to the public.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any written communications?
No, ma'am.
Alrighty. Committee reports? I think we got some of it done.
There's arts and culture. That's it. I've already reported.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No?
Nothing's met that
Okay.
I belong.
Oh, I did go to the homeless the presentation they had. It was a pretty short meeting, and they just kind of rushed everybody out, but it was kind of a follow-up on what's going on with the counties and stuff. Anyway.
Same old kind of?
Yeah, same old
Yeah.
same.
Okay.
I will.
I made an
I'm sorry,
appearance.
I forgot.
No, no, no.
CCWA was so long ago, 3 Thursdays
Yeah,
ago, but
yeah.
we did meet 3 Thursdays ago for 3 hours.
Ouch. Okay. And SBCAG is still working on the Express, trying to determine what the rate hike is going to be, and bringing in somebody part-time to work on grant applications through DC. They still can get those. I was voted in as vice chair And I get to go to Washington DC and Sacramento. So, yeah, those were good meetings. Anyway, all good. Moving on, business items. Agenda item number 12, authorization for expenditure of funds in support of the Arts and Culture Committee activities. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. As the council will recall, last year, the Arts and Culture Committee was created by the City Council, and a budget was established of $50,000 for each fiscal year in the current 2-year budget cycle. The budget amount was established with the understanding that any expenditure for programming be approved by the City Council prior to occurring. At the time of the discussion, there was no consideration given to minor administrative type expenses, and so the last direction that staff has had from the City Council was that all expenditures were to come to the council prior to being authorized. The Arts and Culture Committee has met and has a number of small administrative expenses that they're requesting. Peggy Brierton from the committee is here this evening. I'll ask her to give a short rundown of what is being requested. But in addressing future requests like this, I have included in the staff report a recommendation to keep us from coming back every time there's a small expenditure like this. And that recommendation is that for small administrative expenses less than $1,000, that the city manager be authorized to authorize those expenditures. Obviously, that's only for administrative expenses. Anything having to do with program or projects that the committee might undertake, regardless of the size of the expenditure, would still come back to the City Council per its previous direction. With that, I would like to recognize Peggy to come up and describe what's being requested this evening.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
This is for the council and on the slide. I didn't see that in the packet. So, okay, Peggy Brierton, Arts and Culture Committee Co-Chair, and we are requesting the $337,000. Sorry, we're in the thousands here. $337. If you have any extra
It
money.
makes it sound really good now. Yeah.
Give you 1%.
Well, I figure why not go for the big money and
Yeah, I
then we
don't
don't have to
blame you.
keep coming back. No, I'm sorry.
Don't blame
So anyways, you know, the idea is to have this website up so that when we go public with the whole program, people can access it, find out what's going on, you know, get a good idea and have their applications right there. This is an outline of what we're projecting it would be like. And, you know, so anyway, to get started, we would definitely be doing the website ourselves, so that's why it's only the $337. And so anyway, we hope that that you would approve this because it's something that the whole committee, you know, agreed that would be beneficial. And so Judy Stauffer will be working on that website. If you have any specific questions, you can ask her about that or.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
okay,
Any
thank you.
questions?
I just wanted to find out, now, is this comes from the 50,000 that we have set aside for them? Because it seemed like there was.
Yeah, that's all in it.
Yes, that would be budgeted from that $50,000 line item.
Okay,
Yes.
so we've already.
And as this
Agreement.
is, in the report, staff's actually recommending that the city council go ahead and approve up to $500 for this expenditure. Their estimate at this point of their quote is $337, but as we know, things don't always come in right away, and so to preclude having additional requests for authorization, this would be a reasonable request, I think. Seems reasonable.
Any other questions? Question?
I have a comment.
Well, let me open it up to the public
Okay.
first. It'll be a short open and close, but
Okay.
opening it up to the public, bringing it back to council. Councilmember King.
Anyone? Okay, I think that there was some apprehension on this council about authorizing this money for the arts and cultures already, and I would be, I would approve this $500 for this expense, but I don't think it's that inconvenient for the committee to come in here and ask us for anything over $500. Because now we're getting into that area where you could just go and do projects and spend money without coming here and asking us. And I think it's kind of an attempt to backdoor us. So $500 for expenses for, papers, flyers, emails, whatever you need to do on that event, but I think anything over $500 I would not be in favor of.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember King, just for clarification, and $500, if that's the threshold you'd like to set, that's fine, whatever threshold you'd like, but the intent here was not to automatically authorize expenditures up to $500,000, or $500,000. Now I'm doing it.
Right behind him, he bumped it out. You're gonna get that $500,000.
But the requests, rather than coming to the city council for these administrative type requests, would come through the city manager for authorization, not be authorized by the committee itself. So whatever threshold you'd like to set it at, but I just want to make sure the intent was clear that if the council follows the recommendation at whatever threshold you choose, the authorization is still coming through the city manager's office rather than just giving carte blanche to the committee to spend as they would like. And this would not be for anything having to do with projects or programs, only for administrative type, buying paper, printing, that's banners, that sort of thing. So.
There was,
You're the arts and culture rep.
well, I was looking at this, and they had it all tuned down to $337, and I thought we should go for $350. But when we got down to brass tacks, I thought that just for expedience, if something comes up, to wait till the next meeting, which could be 3 weeks or something, and then it has to be approved, and then on and on. And between me and Kyle and Scott, we'll kind of know what's going on. So, and if it's something that I think needs further approval, I'd be the first to say, hold your horses, and we'll just go to the meeting, because we're gonna have to have 5 votes on stuff, everything anyway.
This is for any event, the council's going to make a decision.
Yeah, this is just I was just trying to keep us out of the $337 every time we need something type of deal. That's, and it's it's an annual thing. We're not that far into it. This is just getting it started, so it's just little stuff.
And I think my concern for other people being concerned would be how transparent. I mean, these are public funds, so any citizen that has a desire to know what the balance is, or at any time has access to the books, if you will, but just what the account value is, not having to come in and take up staff's time. Just it's there to be reviewed, because it'll be a matter of our budget, wouldn't it? A expense year to date.
Any expenditure that comes in would be reflected either in in the register, the finance director's report for the month, with all of the checks going out. So it would be identified as an arts and culture committee line item, and so that could be easily determined through the agenda packet. As for a running tally, they would need to contact the finance department for that, because I don't think those are published anywhere.
Quarterly, it would probably be attached every quarter. It would be brought to the.
It wouldn't be on the quarterly, because the quarterly is a summary, but they can request a report that has all budget line items.
I think that's probably overkill.
It's not a tremendous staff amount of staff time to pull that report. It's fairly well automated.
Yeah, once you log it in, it's there.
I have another member of the committee who wants to get up really quickly.
And I'm really glad, Judy Stauffer, I'm really glad that you're having this conversation, because as our committee has been meeting, we've been trying to get a sense from staff as to how much oversight you want. And so far we've heard that it just needs to be within the committee, of which Kyle and Cara and Mr. Sanchez are part of that. However, we haven't gone public yet, and so what we're hoping is that, you know, the council does want to see everything from press releases to approving what's going to go on the website, to have city council look at things to make sure that everything is, you know, every I is dotted, every T is crossed, because we are very cognizant that this is taxpayer money. And we want to make sure, I mean, one of the things we've asked as a committee is that staff presents us with a running balance of how much of the $50,000 is being spent. Because we think of ourselves, even though we're not a separate nonprofit, we're kind of acting in that way on your behalf. And so we just need to make sure that this is run extremely professionally.
Thank you.
I was wondering if could we set up a tally on the monthly, and if it said arts and, you know, have a separate arts and culture, and then have a running total, and so everyone knows we got $40,000 left, or we got $35,000 left.
And honestly, this group has been incredibly responsible. I mean, we've had one event since it formed, and I think they're just very well done event. Yeah, I think, I truly believe that they are just as serious about budgeting and funding as we are. So, I mean, your 500, I will go along with that. I don't have a problem with the $1,000. I think as long as we've got our city manager and a council member and Cara watching all this, that and the group, the people on the committee.
Well, I don't question our city manager's judgment at all. It's just that, you know, if I give you a budget, you're going to stay in it, you know, and if it's anything over $500, I think you could do your admin stuff for $500 without coming back to us at the discretion of our city manager. Now, if they need more than that, obviously they can come back to us and ask us for more money. They said, hey, it's imperative that we have $600 more for X, Y, and Z. Okay, I'm fine with that, but I don't think that, I think that if you pin somebody into a certain number, and that's a $500 at the discretion of our manager, then I think that's a good number. Because if you gave me $1,000, I will figure a way to spend it.
I'd like to go with 1,000 just for, like I said, just expedient, so that we don't have it every time we do something would be a delay for hang around for the next meeting. And it's gonna, Scott, I think Scott's gonna be able to.
Our meetings are every 2 weeks.
That's true. But then we make a decision and wait for the decision. That's okay.
I know our Dia de Muertos, that had to be acted on really quickly.
It was pretty fast, yeah.
That was very fast. Any comments, or anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to support the $500 expenditure at the city manager, and then anything over that, they come out to the city council. I think that's just not so much oversight, at least that we know what's going on. I think that gives us an idea of what's happening. I think that's what we want.
So
there are,
just to be clear, approve the 500 for this and also give the city manager $500
Discretion.
discretion
Administrative.
going
Right.
forward. Okay,
Correct.
thank you, sir.
And I will second that. Thank you, Art.
Okay, Vice Mayor Mercado.
aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Thank you. All righty. Whew. I tell you, it's getting tougher.
That's why we have money in the bank.
Okay. Good job.
We are very responsible. Agenda item number 13, resolution number 20-02, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, amending the out-of-agency agreement for the provision and sale of water to Zaca Creek Restaurant located at 1297 Hanada Park Road. This is APN 99-600-02, approximately 1/4 of a mile north of the incorporation boundary of the City of Buellton in the unincorporated area of Santa Barbara County. Ms. Hess.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Back in May of 1996, the City Council approved Resolution 96-15, which was the original out-of-agency water service agreement that provided water to the Zacker Creek Restaurant. The property, as you know, has been, the restaurant was closed for a long period, and the property has been purchased by Mr. and Mrs. Rushing and has been improved and developed. The original agreement was very specific in saying that that the water usage is to be provided for the restaurant use. The property improvements that they have made include restoration of the restaurant, renovation of the restaurant, an event center, a 6-room hotel, and a pool and bar entertainment area. So with those additional uses, they would like to request that the amendment be made to allow that language into their water use agreement. Their property rights already have established that fire needs are provided by a different source. This water used from the city of Buellton would be purely domestic water for their operations of these improvements. The anticipated water use right now for their proposed project is 1,500 to 2,500 gallons per day, which is well below the established threshold of the original agreement, which is 4,000 gallons per day. So they are well within their use. So they're not asking for additional use, they're just asking for modification to the language to allow our water use for their improvements. Mr. and Mrs. Rushing is here with us today, if you'd like to speak. We have included an attachment of their project, which is the Zacker Creek Stonehouse Inn and Bar site plan. The county has approved the project improvements already. It is the Health and Safety Department that is awaiting our approval with this resolution to modify the language to ensure that they have water use for the rest of the improvements. So with that, staff is recommending that the council approve a resolution 20-02, and I'm available if you have any additional questions.
Thank you. First of all, any questions for Rose?
I do.
Okay.
Where did the water come from originally when I came here in 2004, when Zaca was still open?
From the city of Buellton. So they had their water meter approved with the original agreement in 1996. So the city has a water meter at the end of our city limits, and it's a private lateral from that point all the way to their property that they maintain for their site.
So it's still hooked up?
It is still hooked up.
That's it for me.
Any other questions?
I would just approve of this and wholeheartedly support this project, because I think it's one of the best things. I miss it since and that they've always been good stewards, and we've supplied, so we get 1.5 times the price for the water, and it's just like an extra account, and then they're part of town anyway. They're not really in town, but
I'll second this motion.
I have to open it up to the public first.
I'll second it again.
You guys are jumping the gun.
I would just.
I open it up to the public. Did you want to say anything, or? No, we're good. Okay, okay, then I'm closing it to the public. I'm kind of with you, John. I have not been out there, but I have friends who have driven by and stopped because they're looky-loos and they're curious, and they have been treated very, very nicely. And from everything I can see driving by, it looks like a wonderful asset to our community. And I can't see anything negative about this.
I agree with Holly.
Councilman Andresic, you?
Ditto.
Okay.
Well, too bad we have an urban growth boundary, because I'm sure that would be a boatload of tax money for the city, because that building is spectacular.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to
Because the county's going
accept.
to get that money.
Okay, I've got a motion
And a second.
and a second. Linda?
Okay, Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilmember Andresic.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Mercado.
Aye.
And Mayor Sanchez. I mean, Mayor Sierra. Excuse me.
Something I don't know.
Jumping the gun now.
Oh, man.
Emergency item.
13?
But it is the 13th.
I heartily agree with this as well, and thank you, and, good
Judy's
luck.
getting
When-
$500,000,
when is the opening? You got
Art's
an
the new mayor,
opening
Jesus, what next?
We're hoping soon.
Soon.
Yeah, couple months maybe?
How's the interior, is the interior done?
Yeah, pretty close.
Oh, yeah.
You'll have to come by.
I gotta come out and take a look.
Come by,
I
we'll
won't,
just
I've
do
seen the
your-
outside, the
Yeah.
gate's closed, but
Yeah.
the outside is spectacular. It's a really great job. It's
Thank
better
you.
than the old one, I'll put it that
Yeah.
way. That was a good place, yeah.
The other one had atmosphere
Well, thank you. All righty.
Thank you.
and a good bartender.
Well, you gonna have a two-step honky-tonk in there again? Okay. It's just a question.
Oh, yeah.
That was what it was famous for.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Wheelchairs.
Thank you. All righty. Business item number 14, authorization to engage research firm for community attitude survey. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. As you'll recall, back in September of last year, during a closed session performance evaluation for the city manager, there were a number of desires and expectations expressed on the part of the City Council and on the part of the city manager in terms of items that were felt necessary to investigate. As a tool to help with that investigation, staff has contacted a reputable polling firm, True North Research. They have a considerable experience in community satisfaction polling for municipalities. Lots and many cities in California have used them for community satisfaction surveys. Staff has spoken with them about it and received a proposal. The proposal has come in for a community satisfaction survey in the amount of $28,850. If the City Council should authorize the work, staff will prepare an agreement for the mayor's signature. The agreement would need to be acceptable to the city attorney prior to the mayor signing that. I'm sorry, I can't get into a whole lot more detail because a lot of this pertains to items that were discussed in closed session. So I'll leave it at that. I'll be happy to answer any questions the City Council has.
Any questions?
No.
No questions?
Is this, the survey is, what's the question on the survey?
So, some of our other clients use these, and they do them every few years, and there's kind of some standard questions. They talk about different services that are provided by the city, and then what is the residents' level of satisfaction with those. There's some open-ended questions about what residents would like to see. There are some yes/no questions about what residents might like to see. And what it does is it helps the city manager, kind of on an executive level, have a better idea of what it is that the residents are looking for. He can know as a professional what direction he thinks things should go, and he obviously knows what the five of you as the elected officials would like to see. But this helps get some resident input. You'll see in the proposal, it requires 300 survey results, and I'm not smart enough to tell you why, but statistically 300 has a margin of error that's small enough to be considered statistically valid. And so they spend their time, do phone calls. They can also, depending on the way that they set it up, they can also do something where, like on the city's website, they could take voluntary responses. Those aren't considered as statistically valid, although they're still valid for our purposes. It's interesting to hear what people have to say when they choose to respond. This is just the kind of thing, and so as Scott said, you don't want to get too deep into what the questions will be because they get a better result if they sort of ask them all in a variety of orders. And I've seen them, and it looks like a decision tree. If somebody's answering a certain way, then they're going to follow them down that line quite a ways. If they answer a different way, then they'll ask a variety of other questions. But they're all really about the services that the city provides and what people want to see And normally, as I say, people do this every 3-4 years, so they normally have that kind of a time frame in mind. They're not saying, do you want to see the city grow to be, Santa Monica, as Councilman King often tells us. It's what do we think we need to do over the next 3 to 4 years? And so that's what you're going to get, and you'll have a statistically valid result that helps with future planning and helps you guys make some decisions based on what the residents have said.
Alrighty, if there are no other questions, I'll open it up to the public. Closing it, Peggy? Okay, closing it to the public, bringing it back for discussion and direction to city staff. Personally, I'm just going to say, and I talked to a council member about this earlier, for me, it's kind of frustrating. We did our visioning over 10 years ago. We got a clear direction of what our residents wanted to see. And since then, everybody who's been mayor, council members, we're out there saying, how are we doing? What do you think? What do you want? And I don't get that much direction. I have my mayor's hours, which are usually a good time to catch up on paperwork. I have emails, I have my phone number out there. I do get some comments, but not nearly as much as I'd like. I'd like to know how we're doing. I'd like to know what direction the residents want to go in. And I just think that it would be well worth the money to actually find out what people in Buellton think of how we're doing and what they want to see, and is the water the quality they like. It just seems like we're all working for our community, but a lot of us, our community doesn't stay in touch with us. We don't stay in touch with them as much as I think we should. So for me, I support a community attitude survey.
Well, I think that, one misstep by someone who maybe came with an agenda rather than willingness to cooperate could cause a lawsuit that we would really regret having, not having this tool to see something like that coming, because I think, people, when they think they can't be discovered, they get sometimes vindictive or make statements that are derogatory or not true, and we wind up, I think we're protecting ourselves, if nothing else, by reaching out for a professional analysis of what, just because someone says, someone said we should build a 4-story theater. How'd that get started?
You'd be amazed at what these 5th grade class students want. Amazed.
Another reason for job
It's the stores they want are just incredible, yeah. But we're in the 5th grade class demanding answers from them, and
They're telling us what they want.
they tell us, and I don't think it's the same thing that their parents might want. I don't think.
Especially when you say there's a bill attached to it.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah. And how are you going to pay for that?
Vice Mayor, Councilman?
Yeah, go ahead, Art.
No, I think it would be something good. It just gives us some insight, especially even though the visioning, it's 10 years old, and things have changed, the valley's changed, Buellton's changed. So it just gives us a kind of a current update, what people want and where they see us going in 4 or 5 years. And I just think it'd be a good expenditure, and just to find out where we're at and where we're going.
Councilmember King.
Yes, ma'am. Well, maybe Scott knows a little bit more of this. I did the math on this, and this is like $96 per survey for the cost that they're asking for us. Is this set in stone that they say? Because, you could survey this half of town, and that'd be all 300 people, and that half of town goes, what the hell are you talking about on that half? And so statistics to me, and I know how they work, and you can do polling, and it depends on who you ask. If you go to let's say for political polling, you go to a very liberal city and you ask a bunch of questions, you're going to get a different answer than if you polled Irvine.
Sure.
Is this their benchmark where they say, okay, we did 300 and we'll stop, and here's your bill for $28,000?
No.
I mean, at $96 per survey sounds like a lot of money to me. I mean, I would say, you can get to 1,500 Then you go, okay, this is an actual cross-reference of the people that live here.
Right.
Because if you, let's say, you went over here to this new project, when these people are all transplants, most of them from somewhere else, their idea and their vision might be different than somebody like Art that's lived here his whole life. You know what I mean? I mean, so the question I'm asking you is, can you say, here's our benchmark, and here's the encompassing area that we want you to do, not just this half of town, that part of town.
And that's very
And
important.
you can't go over and talk to these people in the trailer park because they will not let you.
No, so here's how that works, and it's an excellent question, and it's important to get this out there. There's a reason why True North Research is, to my knowledge anyway, kind of the premier polling company for municipalities in California, and it has everything to do with methodology. The gentleman who runs this firm is he is a PhD statistician by trade. That's what he does, and his methodology is such that he's not just going out and looking for 300 people who will answer his questions. There are a variety of different methods that they use to collect the surveys. There are a variety of different means that they use to ensure that they're getting a good, solid random cross-reference of residents within the city. So even though they only need 300, they will divide the city up into a grid or some other method of dividing them up to make sure that they get a representative group within each segment of the city. This is expensive because they go to this level of detail and this level of trouble to make this happen. You can find someone to come in if you want to write the survey. They'll call and they'll $1 or $2 per survey that they pick up. That's doable. But if you want something that's statistically significant, that's valid, that you can rely upon the results, that's going to cover all areas of the city, that's not going to give any one segment of the population more weight than another, then you need to go through someone who knows how to do that, that's reputable and has an established methodology for accomplishing that. And that's what we're recommending at this point.
And I want to add, they talk in their proposal about professionally translating it, and then the people who are collecting the translated information are native Spanish speakers. So this will go out, and when they're culling their at least 300, they're looking geographically, as Councilman King said. They're also looking at age. They also know that you have a certain percentage of native Spanish speakers, and they're going to get roughly, won't be exact, but it'll be roughly that percentage of native Spanish speakers responding to the poll, because they want to make sure that it actually reflects that cross-section. They're very good at what they do. I've actually worked with similar firms. I don't pick one over the other. I certainly defer to the city manager on this one with his experience with them, but I note that this firm has done work for 3 clients of our firm, and I have never heard a bad word about them. So you can trust their scientific methodology. They do a good job.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't vote to approve this because you can see what everybody, all of us, our jobs are listen to the citizens. That's why we get voted in. So that's what I think. And the people that are here that would have a problem with something, they would be sitting right out there, and they're not out there complaining about anything. You can, and anybody, if you think you're gonna make something better by having somebody from some big city come tell you how great it is or how much you can get for this and this for that, and I just don't. I think it's a waste of money because we're doing our jobs by taking, by talking to people. And there's an election. If they don't like something, they can come vote us out. But as far as I just think that it's fancy, digitized stuff that somebody gets paid to think they're smarter than us, and we're the ones that live here. So I disapprove of this.
Well, everybody's had their say. I guess I will make the motion to approve it, and we'll just see where the vote takes us then.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second, but in the scheme of things, when you look at the amount of money that we handle and all of the things that we have a think we have a very attuned staff. You meet regularly. If there was an under-rumbling, personnel-wise, those are the most damaging things that happen to a community, is someone being flippant and putting the city in an untenable situation. If nothing else, I guess, the mob has protection insurance. That's what they call it.
Well-
I think
I
we
just
could
would-
probably consider this, it's worth a try, and the length of this survey is going to be, I didn't
About
see-
2 months.
Okay,
About 60 days from start.
so we'll have it in 60 days, and then we can see. Then
60 to 75 days.
I imagine it will probably take a year for it to gyrate through all of the filters. The people
I just,
publicizing it and the people using it.
I just wonder what we spent total on our visioning process. That was wonderful. You weren't here, Chanel wasn't in finance then. It was a wonderful opportunity. We did get a lot of residents coming out for the visioning, but I'm sure we spent a lot more than this doing that.
I agree. I just think it's money well spent, John. Your points are well taken.
Linda?
Okay, Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Mercado.
Aye.
Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
No.
And Councilmember Sanchez.
No.
You can say you told us so.
I can, like
You
I used to
both-
always look at Victoria go, I told you so.
That's fine.
No names.
Too late.
Okay.
All righty. Our last business item, establishment of city council priorities for the year 2020.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're good.
I'm missing things here.
You're good.
So, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, this particular item is, again, in an effort to allow me as the city manager to get some direction from the City Council as to ways which, or as to items which you as a body feel are important to get a little more attention. We do have goals that have been established as part of our 2-year budget cycle. Within those goals, within that document, there are also sub-goals or objectives that are in support of those goals. And we, as staff and as the city council, through the authorization of expenditures, are working toward the achievement of those goals. However, there are from time to time issues that come up within the city that don't necessarily fall into the category of one of those goals, or we may have competing needs within those goal categories, at which point staff needs a little bit of direction to determine where the priorities should be. So I have, over the past several weeks, been requesting that each of you give me a list of 3 to 4 priorities that you think the city needs to be looking at more pointedly over the next year. You have responded by giving me those. I have distilled that list down. There are 10 proposed city council priorities that are here, and we can go over these individually if you'd like and discuss them. If the city council would like to approve all of them as a whole, or if you have questions about it, we can break it down however you'd like. But I did want to give you this opportunity to openly point out to staff here what you feel are priorities that are important for the coming year. So I'll go ahead and read them all for the benefit of the public.
Why don't you go one by one?
Okay.
And then we can just say whether it's something we want done like immediately or
Sure.
whether it's for the future.
Okay. Proposed priority number 1 is investigate the possibility of acquiring property, including portions of the Williamson property, for future use by the city. As the
And
city,
that one does have a time limit on it.
that does, well, at least the Williamson property in particular. But as the city council is aware, staff has been bringing you potential properties for consideration of acquisition. I will continue to do that. This is something that's ongoing, but by virtue of the fact that it's here, I'm assuming it's a priority you'd like to continue with, but,
Yes.
Agreed.
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
All right, the second one. Investigate new adult fitness equipment for installation at various parks within the city. And I apologize, this should have also included not just adult fitness equipment, but also new playground equipment if necessary or appropriate in some of our parks. So,
I had a question. This little piece of grass out here by the post office, is there a way we could put adult, like I was just thinking, senior citizens walk by here every day. They have some of these, we saw some cool stuff at the city. And then, elderly have a little place for a little, just easy activities. I don't know, and if they pass out, they're close to the fire department. Just an idea.
That is something we can look at
That
if the
was really
council.
smart thinking.
The council determines that this is a priority worth pursuing, then that we will look at that location among others, but yes.
Well, I did like the idea of for, like I said, for seniors, a place to exercise, and you won't have a bunch of kids throwing balls and making noise and stuff like that. It would be a little,
Just have
place
cars
they
and
could.
sirens.
There you go.
But yeah, no, I hadn't thought of here. That's a nice idea. Riverview Park and our new park. Yeah, it's a nice idea.
There's another lot next to, across from the school. Between the church and the school, there's a little,
That strip?
little no man's land there. I don't know if we ever acquired that.
No,
We didn't get it?
we did not.
Oh, okay. I thought we took that for a
No.
park.
You know, before you leave that, please,
It's gonna be my garden.
those redwood trees out there, and that's a beautiful setting. The grass is level. You spend money to maintain it, mow it, and I think that, if we put maybe even a picnic table, if you will, or benches, I don't want to encourage home sitters there, but it might, I think it's a great idea, and it provides a shade. And
So
that's
do we
what we're
want to look at this to get done the first part of the year or any time during the year? How big a priority is
I think it's
this?
a priority because I just think, John and I saw that,
Yeah,
the equipment at
Yes.
the league, and that was interesting. And I also, the company I work for did the installation of landscaping. It's up at the new Adderdag Cottage up there. And in their new walking trail, they have those adult
Yes.
equipment, and the seniors really enjoy them. That we could tell. I mean, there are always people being used, and just to the fact that some more equipment at the new park. I hit Tractor Supply once or twice a week, and I go out the back day. That park is really being used, and I think just with a few more items, I think especially with now that with the rest of the sections of the condos being finished, we'll have a few more kids out there. It just gives something for that people on that side of town, some interaction, and I just think equipment is something that we need to invest in and look at. That was why I brought it up.
Okay, so you have two equally important items.
Could we limit those to our parks?
Well, we're talking about city property.
Well, those are that is our property.
Mhm.
But I mean, the suggestion of putting it like out front of the post office to me
I like it to the
Here.
side of the post
Well,
office.
it's a little obscure.
It is. The post office property belongs to the city. We lease that to the post office, and I'd have to check the lease to see if there's some kind of prohibition or restriction against what you're referring to here, but that's something we can investigate. And again, the priority here, the proposed priority is simply to investigate this, and before anything happens, we'll bring this back to the city council for a full review and discussion.
It seems to be a little bit of juxtaposition to put it in front of a post office.
We do get a lot of walkers.
It's just between the two senior centers. There's
I-
a senior
I-
center and two trailer parks,
I
more or
actually
less.
used to see a lot of people walking. Okay, number 3.
Okay, so we have consensus on number 2.
I think so.
Number 3, perform an audit of city engineering responsibilities, establish that the city is getting the highest and most cost-effective service through an RFP process. This is on the list, but I will let you know that this is already in progress.
The ad hoc
This
committee is meeting.
ad hoc committee has been meeting, and we should be bringing a draft RFP for the city council to consider and hopefully approve at the 27th of February. If that's approved on that date, it will go out on March 2nd, and we will proceed from there. So while this is listed on the list of priorities, it's probably not necessary because we'll be complete
Already
with it
doing
very,
it.
very shortly.
As well as the next one, too.
Yes, the next one also, we're in the middle of investigating that, and that will come back to the city council. At this point, we're anticipating February 27th.
Okay.
Okay. Number 5, evaluate city sewer infrastructure to determine potential repair needs before issues arise. I will let the city council know that that is something that's currently underway as well. The Public Works Director has been working on this for some time. It is an ongoing process, and it will remain an ongoing process because we don't want to be caught unawares if there's a problem. So we will continue with that.
I had a thought on that. I think that the trees in front of the hitching posts are a ticking time bomb. They have a main water line and a main sewer line running directly under those trees.
Across the street?
Across the street, the eucalyptus trees. So I would always thought we should have some kind of a plan in place, because if it breaks the sewer line or the water line, if it breaks the main line, which it's already cracked, I know it's happened.
Okay.
So I'd just like to have an in-place plan to bypass, either go behind or whatever. Otherwise, it's going to be sitting there. If it happens, it's going to be catastrophic. And also, I don't know about getting those trees out of there at some point, because the street, they changed everything for those trees and whatever.
If it's agreeable to the council, I will amend proposed priority number 5 here to specifically address that particular location and review and analyze that location and devise a plan to prevent future damage or to bypass if necessary.
Yeah.
Just an emergency bypass, maybe in place so that the property owner, because we'd have to go on the property owners to bypass it with the pump or whatever happened and all that.
We'll need to work all those details
Yeah.
out, but I'll put that, if that sums up what your concern is and that
Yeah,
works
that's-
for the rest
that's
of
what my-
council, I'll make that.
And that goes along with that.
But I think, John, that's overdue, isn't it? Isn't that long overdue?
Yeah, it
I mean,
is.
that guy's 5 years ago telling us. I mean, I think it needs to be a big priority.
It's been a subject we've
Of
talked about it
contention
for
for a
quite a
long
Because
while.
they would at least have a
Because they
plan.
run cameras down in there and say, this is a mess. So I think that needs to go,
All right, well,
because if it stops up, all those
Yeah.
houses from Thumbelina to Ballard are done.
sure.
The Albertson Center had a massive loss, and it was a huge eucalyptus tree, and I think they've now taken all of those
Yeah.
down.
Out.
They were like 6, 7 feet across, beautiful trees, but when they crashed through the roof of Albertsons, everyone was inconvenienced for several months while they built.
Wow.
Actually, it wasn't several months, because they had to spend quadruple time to
Yeah.
fix the roof
Reinforce
and
the building, right.
Although that wasn't a natural buzzard habitat
Exactly.
where those eucalyptus
Yeah.
trees were.
So we
But
will
I-
make that a top priority going
Thank
forward.
you.
We'll discuss that and bring that back to the city council in short order.
And then they moved everything around and I can't find anything in that story.
I can't help you with that. I don't think we can do anything about it.
No.
Get your garment.
Okay,
All right, number 6. Create a community get-together event, possibly at Buellton Rec Center. It may center around emergency preparedness, meeting city staff, or some other topic.
Like mayor's hours. huh?
now I do know we're having a mixer in September at Zacker Creek Golf Course. The city is presenting,
City will sponsor a chamber mixer,
I just-
yes.
and I think I put this one in there, I don't know if anybody else did. We used to have CERT training classes. We haven't done anything. We used to, when we first got elected, they had something, I think it was it the Marriott? We went up and toured the gosh, brain's going, up on top of the hill, the water.
Reservoir.
Reservoir.
Reservoir,
Thank you.
right, yeah. Mhm.
And the wastewater plant, and we met city staff, and we talked about safety issues. We met the sheriff and the fire department. There was a pretty good turnout for that. Anyway, I would just like to see something that the city puts together. Again, it's trying to find out more about, get our community more involved, whether, I don't know if the Zaca Creek mixer, the Zaca Golf Course mixer is enough, or if there's something else we could do as a city.
You know, the one thing, you wouldn't see it because they don't put it out publicly, I think, but there are CERT meetings at Ranch Club. There's 200 or 200.
Well, they're already certified, they just have
Right,
monthly
but
meetings?
they're having right now they're having new CERT training.
Really?
Just just announced them that a day or two ago, they do a robocall, and it's,
Is that open to all seniors?
Can we join?
Can we? Not
you'd
getting
have
invited to
tax the
that party?
homeowners association. A lot
Okay.
of donuts.
Is there consensus to pursue some sort
Yeah,
of a?
I don't know how urgent this is, but I just think, you know, it's been a long time since the city has done anything.
We'll discuss it with the recreation staff and with other staff members, and we'll come up with some ideas and bring it back to the city council.
Thank you.
You need to check with your fifth
I
graders.
think realistically, we could,
With what?
Check with the
I
fifth
think
graders.
realistically, we could have that within the first 6 months of this year. I mean, get something, because, like what Holly talked about, some of us weren't on council at the time, Ed and Holly and I were, but it was like a public thing, to where we went and looked at some facilities. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people in this town, I mean, we know where they are, but there's probably a lot of people that don't know where our water comes from, or don't know where the sewer plant is, or, you know, maybe we could put something together as a, you know, a summer camp tour, maybe.
Well, we could do
use
a,
the rec bus.
right.
Yeah, right, and then we could go around all
We
these.
could do the
Community-
rec bus, we could even do a multi-stop, self-guided tour on one day where we have staff members at various points within the city and have people, give them a map and say, follow this route, and do it that way. That way, anyone who wants to come can do it, but we'll look into it, we'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
Not to discount your idea, but I think if as many council members could go along with people at the same time as the way we did it in the first place.
Sure.
There were a lot of questions for us. I mean, they ask us questions, you know, how much does this cost? How long has this been here? Blah, blah, blah. So I think really having it be inclusive for the council members to go with the public at the same time, and our staff people, like John used to be on water, we could have water people, which we did have water people go with us, and people that are directly connected, you know. Even, you know, people from engineering or people from finance or whatever is part of that whole tour thing, you know, and just make it kind of a day out of it.
Yep, okay.
You get that covered with that survey? Done?
Gotta be aware.
Oh, boy. Okay.
All right, number 7. Have the city's landscaping contractor evaluate all city irrigation systems, particularly in the parks, to ensure proper operation and adjust as necessary to ensure that landscaping is adequately watered.
I'm sure Valley Gardener probably stays on top of that.
That's their job, but we can certainly look into that and make sure that, you know, have a,
You just add it to their job description.
He's got the stats.
Yeah.
He's walking around with those numbers in his head, and I've always been able to, he'll tell you where the problems are.
oh, sure.
If you stop masking.
And if, you know, if need be, we can have someone else from the staff go around and just check and spot check from time to time. That's something that's easy enough to accomplish with.
Does ours, I know Kyle was working with Alan before, kind of overseeing it. And does our new city park employee work with Alan on problems, or who does
JC?
Alan?
Yeah, JC handles that contract,
Okay,
so he does
Okay.
oversee it.
so JC should know.
Yes, and he's actually taking a much more active role in managing that contract as well, and kind of making sure, checking all the sites, and
Good.
we'll be able to establish a better program as far as mass replacements of, you know, irrigation parts and areas.
Thank you.
He was very instrumental in the Christmas program and the new park and the new gazebo. I mean, it was very,
JC,
the people that came, you know, where did this come from?
He
You know,
was
and
sweeping
it
a
showed
lot
up
of
in
water.
about 5 days, I think. You know, he was
Yeah.
very proactive.
So this is one that's ongoing, but we'll go ahead and leave it on as a priority if that's the council's desire, just to ensure that we keep up with that.
Super.
Number 8, hold a city council retreat for the purpose of getting city council committed to projects or goals for the next 3 to 5 years.
And I had put this down, but I'm thinking we should hold off on this. We've got elections this fall. We've got a satisfaction, a service that's going to be finding out what our community is interested in. And I think that if we did something like this in January, had a retreat and did planning using the information that we've gleaned and whoever's on council at that time. So I'm pulling that for this year, I think. unless anybody has any other.
Okay, well,
I think that's a good idea.
we'll hang on to it and bring it,
Good idea.
we'll look for it next year.
Yeah,
Okay,
perfect.
great. All right, number 9, we're going to investigate crack sealing in the Meadow Ridge subdivision. And there are some photographs that were left at each of your seats that illustrate the issue.
Councilman Ferry did this, huh?
This was Councilman Fennell, a resident in that neighborhood who has toddlers and neighborhood toddlers, asked I ride with him to see the condition of the streets. And
And this is all over the
this,
tract?
no, not specifically, okay, this was Riverview and Meadowview,
No.
coming down Riverview into Meadowview, and I think John remembers, I mean, there were, 3 or 4 years ago, there were 5 feet weeds growing out, when we had a landscaping agreement, and so I think all that's been taken care of. The best ones, I thought, were, the oak tree, the Twin Oaks area, it's a oak tree and Twin Oaks, there's a circle there. That paving, and I don't know what the timing is on it, it's in beautiful shape, because the base, and having been involved with construction projects, I think that the ground was not prepared properly on some of these things, and Meadow Ridge, or Meadowview had they had a problem when they first opened. So I think the ground treatment is something, but we do need to address it, I feel, because I'm showing you the cracks in the, and I think, I'm not suggesting we tear up the streets, but for some reason, we have to find some way, and this is why we had the 5-year plans, long range. We may need to take the worst ones, because I have one of those pictures has a ballpoint pen sticking that deep into the crack, and I think what's happened is the water goes, and that's then where they fissure, and not trying to redesign, but we need to give attention to that. And those, the oak tree at Twin Oaks and Sycamore are okay, and the rest of it's pretty much fissured away. And I think we've spent a lot of money patching, but that's not, we haven't had to patch Twin Oaks.
Is that due for slurry?
Yeah, I was gonna say, when does that come up?
We do have the pavement management program that identifies the areas in the city. The Meadowview area is, I believe, in 2022. So not this coming fiscal year,
too far
the
away.
following fiscal year.
2 years.
Yes, and so that's what every year before is when we review the next year's road maintenance job to evaluate what type of work we need to do to, address any concerns
It
or
was
preserve
Arden is
long-term.
one other street, I believe, Nick Keating, who's the retired fire chief, I think, is that on Arden? They've had
That's the street, yeah.
they've had separation, and I think it's the base, it's not the asphalt, it's the base, and, we've got, everybody's on, a lot of skateboards out, and that's what prompted this citizen to ask that I bring it to the city's attention, and I would like to, you can walk that and see for yourself.
We can investigate that and evaluate the condition of the streets as they are in any given location, and then evaluate, have the city engineer, the public works director, evaluate the appropriateness of moving things ahead if it's necessary, or we may wind up with just, rather than moving an entire area ahead, we may wind up just repairing a specific location. But again, a lot of this has to do with, there's a difference between the perception of a resident who sees a crack in a street and thinks there's a problem versus the crack actually becoming a problem. And so we'll need to have the city engineer, public works director, and her staff evaluate these things and come up with a list of priorities, and we'll bring that back to the city council for consideration.
Terrific.
Is that something we can do?
There was an issue in that area, though, that I think our history, it would be nice to know what the history was, how they handled it, because I think they had a mold situation with some of the homes, and certain people.
It was a big
Were
flood,
able to-
wasn't it?
Well,
Wasn't there
I-
flooding?
The groundwater.
I don't know that, I don't think it was the
Mold in the
flooding,
groundwater.
it was the way it was, the ground was able to filter it wasn't moved out, because it's very, there's a 6-foot culvert, 50 feet
There's a
from
crack,
there,
yeah.
but that
wasn't
didn't,
going there.
wasn't water.
They
wasn't
didn't
going
seal,
there.
but there wasn't a moisture seal that correctly, as I understood it, and then so the houses were getting mold in the,
Yeah.
through the foundation, so it was something that they had to take care of, I believe.
And I think contractor liabilities will.
But it's all, that would also lean towards
25 years? I
the
don't know
roads
how long
being,
that-
Yeah, if you have
Kinda,
a water table,
you know.
that could be
Maybe
a
30
problem.
years.
So we'll look into that.
Okay.
is that something that you could just, without doing that big a deal, go out and do some cracks? Because I mean, we used to,
Just seal cracks.
I mean, just go do a crack sealer
Seal
thing on it without going to $50,000 engineer bid to go
Yeah,
seal cracks, to just throw in
We'll
the.
evaluate that and come back.
And
to
the
the
other,
city council.
along that line, there was also, the weeds in the
Right.
gutters, and, I don't know, if we don't have a roads crew for a city, but I don't know what it takes to go send people out. Like, I used to go with Roundup and spray the weeds in the gutters, and then, so they wouldn't,
Yes.
because there's some weeds coming out that, hold up the leaves and all that, so. I don't know.
We'll look into that. and we'll-
Scott, I honestly think that we need to make this a serious priority, and I hadn't seen these before because I don't go up there that often, but this is what we collect tax dollars for.
Sure.
And if this is what our streets are looking like, I mean, it's a black eye to us because we're not taking care of it. So I don't think we need to go out to an engineering. I think we ought to just get an RFP, have them run around the city, take a look at it, and say, oh, we'll charge you X amount of dollars to fix all these cracks, because I think this is an embarrassment.
Okay, we will look into that and bring this back to the city council
ASAP.
ASAP.
Well, and,
Okay.
but Rose, I think Rose would verify, I've, either Solvang or Buellton or both in the past have had contracts for, quarter of a block, or like a 2,000 foot, you don't have to make it 20 feet wide.
Correct,
If you,
yeah.
if you took 2 foot wide, but if it's, they need to decide if the ground is permeable or not permeable, or if it's a sieve and it's, every time it finds a fissure hole, it's gonna just create a water sump.
We'll have that evaluated
But I
and
think-
we'll bring it
Rose,
back to the council.
Isn't that
Thank you.
a way they do it, by the type of a paving job? Doesn't necessarily have, some things may need a 3-inch, and some things may just need, I think a lot of these, if both sides are level, seems like asphalt or tar or something could
Just seal.
seal it.
For things like in that picture, we would just do crack sealing for. It's
Okay.
not something that we would do major
No,
pavement
that's what I
renovation
was
Yeah, we
for.
don't
hoping
need
too,
an
'cause that
engineering
inconveniences
contract for
everybody.
Yeah. Well,
Big
thank you.
equipment.
Thank you.
I mean,
for bringing
I
it
think the
to our
guys that do this could tell you what the issue is.
Sure.
We don't need a $50,000 engineering
No,
survey on
we
this.
have an engineer on staff who can go out
Right,
and
right.
take a look and
Right.
bring in the right people.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
And then the last item is having to do with Avenue of Flags, and the request is that we have a development update for the Avenue of Flags. And
That could just come to a council meeting, couldn't it?
it could come to a council meeting. I was actually having a discussion with our planning department today, and they have in the past prepared a newsletter type format with general recent updates and things that have happened within the Avenue of Flag specific plan area. We discussed if the council would like to see that maybe once or twice a year, whenever there are a sufficient number of updates to warrant. We'll bring it back to the city council as just a general discussion item, and then once that discussion item has happened here at the city council, we can post that newsletter type document on the website, and then the city can take.
I do appreciate getting the report from planning on the status of all the projects. That's very much appreciated.
So if that meets the council's
It does.
intent, we
I
can-
did forget to open it up to the public, though. We do have 2 in the audience. Does the audience have any comments for the city council priorities? Closing it to the public then? And
Oh, I'm sorry, number 4, I apologize. Number 4 was solar lighting installation on Industrial Way, and that will be coming back to the city council in February,
our next
the
meeting.
next meeting.
All righty, bringing it back to council. Do you have direction, or we totally confused you now?
I think I have sufficient direction. I think we can, we're going to currently dispense with items number 3, 4, and 8. We are going to give particular attention Well, we've got a couple of these that are underway already that will continue. We're going to give particular attention to number 5, having to do with the sewer infrastructure at Hitching Post, and number 9, having to do with the crack ceiling.
Perfect.
Okay.
Could I make a request to,
Next meeting.
Go ahead.
You have to
Yes.
agendize it.
Yes, no.
or to be agendized, maybe because I wanted to have just an extra hand or some more work you could have a guy go cut the weeds in the gutters. Or I don't, at one time that was part of the Public Works, the water guys or sewer guys, or there was we floated around and there was actually a streets guys who go fix potholes and that kind of thing. And is that a position that needs to be filled, or is that something that we don't have time for? We could have an extra hand to do just some monkey work around town without getting, hiring.
That is something that we will, that I will be happy to discuss with the Public Works Director, and we will evaluate what the situation is. If you've got particular locations, unless it's unless the council desires it to be agendized, I think we can handle that administratively. Just let me know what the issues are, and I will follow up. And if the council wants to see it come back as a discussion item, we can do that as well.
Is there a manual for monkey work?
Is there a what?
Is there a manual for monkey work?
All you need's a monkey.
Yeah.
There you go.
Zoo. Takes a zoo.
Okay. City managers report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of items for the city manager's report. Just a couple of items for the city manager's report. The first thing, I just wanted to make the city council aware that, as in past years, the city has signed on as a sponsor, a gold level sponsor for the Oak Valley Jogathon, for Oak Valley PTSA, in the amount of $425. That has been budgeted in the past, and we have signed on with that. And the other item I had for this evening was just to let the city council know, I'm sure you've all heard already, but we had a staff member, Kyle from our recreation department, Kyle Labello, who was visiting in China in Wuhan, China, actually, at the time that the coronavirus broke out, and managed to get back on a plane to the United States a couple of weeks ago, has been in quarantine for the past 2 weeks at March Air Base. He is back with us now and has come back to work, and we are very happy to have him, and
Give him our
we're glad
best.
he's back. So with that, I'll
Excellent.
conclude my report.
Before I turn it over to our attorney, I did want to compliment City and Councilmember Andrusik for our California flag that you suggested that we
Yes.
have, and our City of Buellton flag. So I appreciate it. We are
Working toward getting
official
that at
now.
City Hall.
And we have a citizen
Yes.
that doubly appreciates
We're
it.
now official.
There
So,
you
Mr. Murphy?
We didn't need a survey either.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Council will now recess into closed session for 5 items. 1, public employee performance evaluation of the city manager. 2, real estate items, both listed out in full on the agenda, but the properties are 264 Lalata Drive and 202 Dairyland Road. The 4th item is potential initiation of litigation, and the 5th item is potential litigation, facts and circumstances currently unknown to the potential